Now, SABC worker unions are threatening strike action again. They're accusing the public broadcaster of not doing everything possible to avoid job cuts. The SABC will retrench 303 employees as it tries to save costs. Over the past few days, there have been several reports on the process that the broadcaster is denying. Let's find out what's really happening. Joining us now is the SABC's Chief Operating Officer, Plaatjes. Thanks for your time, sir. We appreciate it. So there's still contention over these retrenchments. You've cut it down to 303, but unions are not happy. They say you're negotiating in bad faith. Is that true?
No, Shahan, no, it's not true. And as you know, there is a court that has pronounced on that. The Labour Court on the 2nd of December has said that the process has been fair. Over and above that, we extended that by another 30 days. And jointly with the unions, we were able to reduce the number from 600 to 400 and then to 303 now.
Yeah. So just in terms of the people affected, there have been many reports that executive producers from the African language bulletins have received letters, some copy editors also speaking out to newspapers. Can you explain how you decided who should be retrenched?
Shahan, I think it's very important to note that under the letters that were received, some were redundant and some are surplus. It's not necessarily a retrenchment. It's a fair process to enable everybody to apply for the vacant positions or the position that is on the proposed structure now. So, for example, in the news department, if one department, and let's just call it a language specific one, if there's 10 resources and there's only 5 positions, all 10 will receive letters to say that the positions are redundant. But 5 of them can be occupied within that and taken up in those positions. So the letters is fair, it's sent out to everybody, but they all have the opportunity. We are not closing down any of the radio stations or language groups on news. We are just making sure that the process is fair for everybody to apply for those positions.
Yeah. So are you targeting all sectors or mediums within the salary scale? Is it middle management? Is it executive producers only? How do you come to that decision?
Yeah, so it's not just news, as you know, it's across the organization and it's all levels within the organization. So we went through a process of determining a new operating model for the organization, and then we went through a process of determining an optimal structure to support and enable that operating model. And then we engaged with all parties around that proposal. It was extensive consultations. And the second part of that, during the month of December, we had about 28 consultations with divisional levels, basically. So all staff were given the opportunity to participate in those sessions and to give their input. That's where we were jointly able to reduce that number further from 400 to 303.
And with these 303 jobs that are being cut, ultimately, how much money does the SABC save? Is it enough to actually see your finances get back in order?
Yeah, that's a critical question. So we were set a target of 700 million. We are able to reduce the number from 600 employees to 303 purely because of the alternatives that we were able to identify. And that's alternatives to retrenchment. So those alternatives include a salary freeze for the next three years, and that's across the board from executive positions right down. That has not yet been agreed to by Labour. As soon as the organization turns around, and then we would be able to have salary increases again. The other was reducing of the number of leave days from 35 to 28. And reducing the number of sick leave days, which is astronomically high, about 180 days over a 3-year cycle, as opposed to what is in the Basic Conditions of Employment Act, which is 36 days over a 3-year cycle. Yeah. All of that has financial implications, and with those alternatives, we were able to reduce the number from 600 to 303, bearing in mind that there are still 170 vacancies. And should, of the 303, be able to be occupied in that, it will reduce the actual number of impacted people substantially.
Yeah, so just that figure in terms of how much you're saving, can you tell us?
So in total, we still have a target of 700 made up of the 303 that could be impacted, as well as a salary freeze for the next 3 years, reduction in labor, or leave days, sorry, and a reduction in sick leave days, and then also the discontinuance of leave encashment.
Yeah, and unions, of course, are threatening legal action again. They're also threatening strike action next week, Wednesday. They've given you 48 hours to respond to their concerns. That's what they've told us, at least. What are their concerns, and what more can you do to appease them?
We haven't received that notice, or certainly I haven't. And yes, when we concluded the CCMA facilitated sessions, which was over a 4-month period that was concluded in October, the commissioner said that all parties reserve their rights. So within the organization, the right to obviously retrench, within labor, the right to strike. So we are aware that they are intending a strike. You will recall that there was a 3-week strike prior to us going into the extension, and the business continued. We will continue. If there is a strike, it will be on a no work, no pay basis. We are quite confident that the people, even now, more so after the consultations in December, understand the need for the retrenchment. Nobody likes retrenchment, and certainly nobody wants to go through that. But they certainly understand the need for that. So we are not anticipating that there would be any successes around the strike.
Are you concerned at all about any possible blackouts of the SABC during the strike action? There were threats last year around this.
Yeah, so we actually clarified that in a joint interview with CWU and ourselves earlier in the week, where they confirmed that by blackout, they do not mean any sabotage. They mean obviously trying and mobilize everybody to participate in the strike. That's not possible because you would know that we operate on an operating model where we have freelancers as well. Freelancers are not impacted by this process. They cannot go on strike on this matter. And there are many employees that fully understand why we're doing this and fully appreciate the efforts that the organization has gone through. Instead of just concluding this as a tick box exercise in 2 months, we've taken 6 months to extensively consult on this matter.
Yeah. Very quickly, one last question regarding when this entire process do you envisage will be over?
So we have started the implementation of the process. We are hoping to conclude that by the end of February.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, sir. Appreciate it. The SABC's Chief Operating Officer, Plaatjes.